Alright, let's get on down to here, this tomb in this underlined section. The facade is that of a Grecian temple, except that the four tall pilasters on its face are in raised relief, one half of each being buried in the rock. The door has a classical architecture over two pillars, which in turn have Nabatean capitals. Okay, so these particular capitals for these columns are after a Nabatean style, not even Edomite or Greco-Roman. Okay, this section down here, the interior consists of a huge chamber about 62 by 52 feet in dimension, with a number of recesses or loculi in it, which have been thrown together to turn what was once a tomb into a church. A Greek inscription in red paint on a panel in the back wall at the extreme left as you enter records the fact of its consecration to Christian worship by a bishop whose date is identified as 447 AD. This is the latest date connected with Petra. Okay, so we can see that this Greek inscription, we know that Greeks were there, and Romans were there. People who spoke Greek were there around these times, building, leaving inscriptions, leaving architectural structures. Let's read on. Just north of this urn tomb stands another called the Corinthian tomb. It resembles in many particulars the Kazne, and like it belongs to the classical type of architecture. It is not, however, so well cut, nor is it indeed plumb, and therefore it is supposed to have been a Roman adaptation of some old Edomite structure. It is approximately 80 feet broad, 100 feet high, and like the Kazne, has a second story in which is a central cylindrical tower adorned with pilasters and capitals. The whole facade is terribly eroded. The lower part has 8 round pilasters with Corinthian capitals. Alright, right now we're going to get another witness to some of the information that was brought out in the book Sarcophagus of an Ancient Civilization. And this is from Pilot Destinations or pilotguides.com. You know, it's basically a site geared towards travel, but it has historical information. I mean, this information is all over the place. You could just spend 5 minutes doing a Google search and you'll find all kinds of information on Petra and the architecture and whatnot. You know, so let's get right into it. Petra, the rock of the Roman Empire. Alright. Where? Petra. Alright. When? Dating from 6th century BC. The most impressive ruins date from the 1st century AD. The most impressive ruins. That's the date. Alright. History. Ancient Arab trading posts conquered by the Romans. So the Romans were there. Okay, let's run through some of this. What's the history here? Petra, which means rock, the capital of the Nabateans who ruled the region surrounding the ancient city in the 6th century BC. So they say the Nabateans were there also in the 6th century BC. They constructed the city carved entirely out of the canyons and hills of sandstone of the Wadi Arabia. Alright, let's go on down here. The Nabateans resisted all attempts to conquer their capital for almost 500 years. In 31 BC, Emperor Augustus sought to bring about the reunification of the Roman Empire, but it wasn't until 106 AD that the Romans finally conquered Petra. The city fell into decline, and for hundreds of years, this incredible feat of architectural engineering was entirely unknown to the Western world. Okay, now,
let's look under what's there to see and do. Alright. It says the famous treasury Al-Khazne or El-Khazne is carved out of sandstone and is an impressive 130 feet high and 100 feet wide. It was probably built in the 1st century AD, as the architecture bears a strong resemblance to Roman styles from that period. See, and that's what I've been explaining in these videos. You can also visit the impressive royal tomb that was built to resemble a temple, as well as miraculously preserved Roman temples, theaters, tombs, baths, houses, and banqueting halls. Alright, so you can see here, even this travel site knows what everyone else knows and what everyone should know, instead of just watching movies and getting and jumping to conclusions. You know, everyone knows that the architecture that was there was done by Romans. Alright? You don't even have to be a rocket scientist to know this.
Now, I know I probably beat this thing over the head enough already, but I just want to rub it in some more. On page 93, under the monuments of Petra, it reads, not far to the north of these specially commanding tombs in the Kupta wall, there is a still more celebrated one with a Latin inscription. So we have Latin inscriptions over here. I previously showed you a Greek inscription. Now here's a Latin inscription, the lettering of which, though somewhat obliterated, stands in 3 lines over the entrance and gives the name of Quintus Praetextus Florentinus. The tomb is supposed by Laborde to belong to the time of Hadrian or Antonius Pius, around 140 AD. It is sometimes called the tomb of the governor. In point of beauty, it is considered by some the grandest of all the smaller monuments in Petra, which is something created in 140 AD, when you didn't even have Edomites in Petra, but you had Roman architecture, okay, with even Latin inscriptions. All right, so you see that Romans were in Petra. All right. Now this is what you're supposed to do when you bring forth information. You use scholarship. You don't just watch movies and attempt to prove things with movies. Yeah, you can find little bits of things here and there, but those claims that were made out of ignorance, assuming that those Roman architectural structures were built by Edomites who dwelt in Petra, when nothing could be further from the truth. But yet and still you put that out, you put it up on the internet, bringing forth a false testimony, misleading people. And others who are ignorant to these things will cheer a person on because it's making them feel good about themselves for some reason, when the information is wrong. And what we're supposed to do is bring forth the truth. Now some people even have so much pride that they'll be in error and still leave the false information up. Now that's something that you have to take up with the Creator. All those who put out false information. Once you know you're in error, you're supposed to repent and turn from that. Alright? And if you're going to discuss Edom or any other part of history, like the Pelasgians and things like that, because we're going to get to that also. And we're going to show how you're in error on that. You're greatly in error. Okay? And we're going to get most of our information concerning that from the scriptures. Alright? So that's it on that. And may the Most High bless your understanding. Shalom.